We're here at Chase Home Banking Center in Newport Beach, and today is the first day of the Non-Negotiable You event. It's going to be my first time pouring into all these agents and loan officers, helping them create the Non-Negotiable You, the version that's capable of anything you want. So we're going to do a book signing, we're going to do a meet and greet, and create some inspiration. In here. First, I want you to start visualize something for me. Imagine that every single morning you wake up excited to start the day. You wake up energized, you wake up excited and motivated, ready to go. Imagine that you have so much self-awareness that you know exactly what you're thinking, you know what you're feeling, and you're in tune with all of it so that you can do whatever you want with it and that you don't become a victim of it. Now imagine that you control your mind instead of it controlling you. That the thoughts that come in, you get to choose instead of being stuck with them. And imagine that you take responsibility for everything you want in your life, whether that's joy, whether that's success, whether it's relationships, love, whatever you want, you take responsibility for it. And imagine that you show up authentically you every single day. No two personalities, not one for work and one from home, but you literally are yourself all the time in everything that you do. And imagine that you trust yourself more than you trust anybody else. You trust the decisions you make, you trust the choices, you trust the actions, you trust yourself without a doubt to lead yourself exactly where you want to go and what you want to create. Can you imagine that? When you think about your day-to-day right now, how would it look different? That version of you that I'm describing, that I want you to imagine, that's the non-negotiable you. Imagine showing up like that every single day. The non-negotiable you is capable of accomplishing anything you want. It's capable of living your best life. It's capable of more than you ever even imagined, I promise you. But what gets in the way of being that version of you? Tell me if this sounds a little familiar. You wake up in just enough time to get going. Everything is kind of controlling you. You're reacting to everything around you. You don't fill yourself up because you just don't have enough time and everything else is more important and you've got to tend to a client or a family member. So you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, sometimes you're stressed out. Your mind is telling you everything it wants to tell you and it's controlling you. It's pulling you all over the place, telling you what you can and can't accomplish. It's calling all the shots. And you're dodging responsibility. You're making up excuses because there's so many other things going on. You're not even present enough to realize what's happening. And you're showing up as different versions of yourself. You're showing up as how somebody might want you to show up. You're saying what you think somebody wants you to say. And so you don't trust yourself. You're looking to everybody else for the answer and the guidance because you don't trust yourself. You don't know yourself. That's what's in the way. And I know because I was there. And I know because I've taken thousands of clients from that place to the non-negotiable you. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are. And we get it backwards all the time. We think that the next big sales class, the next time management course, the next productivity, lesson is all going to fix it. But the thing is that it's still you who's doing all of those things. So your sales lessons, your time management, your productivity, your branding, your marketing, all of that is still coming from you. And most of the time we are not showing up at our full potential. I wasn't. When I started an investment firm in 1997, I did not show up as the non-negotiable me. I overpromised, I overgave, I oversold, I did whatever I had to do to get it done. I hit charts and I was number one in a lot of places, but I was doing it at sacrificing everything else in my life. I didn't have all the joy. I was two personalities. I was one at work and one at home. And that's where that line comes in, right? I can't wait till I can retire. Because you have to show up as someone else all the time. And I realized through that process that, you guys, I was wasting 50% of my capacity, 50% of my capacity worrying about what other people thought, filtering everything I did through everybody else. Giving and yeses away like they were free and I had endless amount of time. Not tending myself, tending everyone else because I wanted to make sure I won them over. And I thought for a second, if I want to be more, if I want to accomplish more, something has to change. I cannot create more time in the day. I can't do any more. We run out of time. We run out of, days. So the only thing that could change was that I had to change who I was. And if I became a different version of myself, then I had more capacity. And you know what? My success skyrocketed. And I had more time freedom. And I had more joy in my life because all of a sudden, I shifted into that non-negotiable you. I was showing up for me. I was showing up authentically. I was trusting what I was doing. I was taking responsibility for my actions because my head was not bogged down with the worry and the fear and the dodging responsibilities and everyone else's opinion. Does it sound familiar to you all? You guys tracking with me? Some of the things that bog us down day after day? So what I bring to you today is a version of yourself that can truly accomplish anything you want. And you know people that I coach. I have a track record with people. I have my own investment firm. I have my own coaching business. All of them have gone through the different levels of success. I have managed people. So I'm not making this up. I'm telling you from sitting across the table from thousands of people who I have watched step into their authenticity, who I have watched started to trust themselves, to build their confidence, to take responsibility for their actions. And I've watched them change one by one. And that's what I want to give you tonight. I want to encourage you. I want to inspire you that what I'm bringing you is not rocket science, you all. It's not. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy. I'm asking you to create a relationship with yourself. It's that simple. If you trusted yourself and you took responsibility and you took care of yourself and you were your favorite person, do you think things would change? Will. And so I want to give you the foundational principles of what that looks like to be a non-negotiable you, but it's also not about just giving it to you and telling you, it's about giving you a practice so that you can implement it and put it into your life. Because we all know too well that we can read books, we can listen to podcasts, and we can take it in and we can learn it and we can know it, but that is different than living it. And without living it, all we can do is share that information with somebody else, but not use it for ourselves. So I am not the person who's just going to tell you what, it looks like and give you that inspiration. I'm giving you the formula. I'm giving you the formula that many of my clients use every single day to transform their life and business. And it starts with clarity. The first thing that you have to do is have awareness and clarity about you. How often do you pay attention to yourself? Probably not very much, right? We pay attention to a lot of other people. What our clients want, what our kids are doing, what our spouses are doing, our friends, but we often don't look at ourselves. And so that first piece is clarity. You need to know everything that fills you up. You need to know what brings you joy. You need to know what makes you happy, what makes you tick. You need to know what makes you cringe. That's like your supplements every single day. If you know that and you can put them into you every single day, that's what provides your energy, your motivation, and your excitement for every day. And I had a group today that I was working with, and one of the girls in there, we're 9 weeks into our 12-week group, and she said, I got it. I said, you got what? She goes, I get the value thing. I finally get it. She said, I got all of my values in this weekend. I stacked them all. My 7 most important values, I had them all in this weekend. And I woke up today and I was like, I can do anything. She's like, I feel like I am unstoppable. I'm like, yeah, that's because you gave yourself what you need. You gave yourself everything that fills you up. So that's the first piece, is understanding what fills you up and then putting it into your life. The second piece is having self-awareness. You cannot know, you cannot change if you don't see what you want to change. And self-awareness is huge, because if we don't see what we're thinking, if we don't notice how we're feeling, we just become that. You ever wake up and, oh, it's a horrible day, and at the end of the day, that same person says, it's been a horrible day. It started first thing in the morning, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and it just stayed like that all day long. Yes, that's because you had zero self-awareness about it and didn't do anything about it. We don't have to stay in that same position. When you know how you feel, you get to examine it and decide whether you want to do something about it. That's self-awareness. Understanding when that thought pops into your head and you go, oh, I don't want to make those calls today. Catching that, being able to talk to yourself about it, that's self-awareness. Without it, we go, I don't want to make those calls today. Yeah, I have this other thing I should do, and off we go, right? Without even this conscious awareness of what we're deviating from. But when we have self-awareness, we can tap in, we can question those pieces so that we stay on track to what we actually want to accomplish. And with that self-awareness, guess what? That's what opens the door for you to control your mind. And people talk about mindset all the time, but how do you do it? It's controlling your thoughts. But in order to do that, you have to first catch them. If they just come into your space and you let them just take over, we don't have the self-awareness, so the thought is just going to take up space, and we become that. But with the self-awareness, when the thought comes into your mind and it says, gosh, you are never, ever going to break through to that next price range. You are never going to be a luxury real estate agent. That self-awareness says, hold up. And then your ability to master your mind says, false. I will be a luxury agent because I work hard, because I'm motivated, because I provide good service, because whatever other reason you want to list there. Now we're getting somewhere. Now you're no longer a victim to your thoughts. You're actually getting to control what your mind does. And that's huge, because your mind will run you if you don't run it. And it's one of the number one things I see with people getting stuck in challenges and obstacles, is that their mind is telling them everything it wants it to believe instead of the other way around. Your mind is just as controllable as this hand. I want to open it, I want to close it, I do it. I want to think a new thought, I choose it. I want to get rid of a thought that came into my head, I delete it. Does that sound doable? I'm just curious. So we know that it sounds doable, but why don't we do it all the time? Because that self-awareness piece. Because we're not present enough to catch that thought and to do something with it. So you see how this is stacking up, right? That's your clarity, that's your awareness. When you have that, now we're seeing things differently. We're seeing opportunities, we're seeing possibilities. And then we move into an empowerment. Because once you see these things, you can do something about it. We become empowered. And that's where we start going, gosh, if I have these thoughts and I'm choosing something different, I need to take responsibility for what I want. What does that responsibility look like? Is it making calls? Is it posting social media? Is it building a brand? Whatever it may be, you have to take responsibility for what you want. And that's a hard thing to do when you don't have the awareness and the control over your mind. But when you do, you get to set what you're going to be responsible for, and you take that action. And when you start taking that action and you start becoming responsible, your confidence increases. And fear starts to fade away. You start to believe in yourself and your worth. And things get a little bit more interesting. And you start to realize, I am good. I'm actually really good. I fill myself up. I control my mind. I take responsibility for what I want. This version of me is good. And that welcomes your authentic self. because you're proud of yourself. You love yourself. You're seeing what you can do, and that brings out the authentic you. Who deals with the lack of authenticity sometimes? Don't be shy. Everybody does, I think. And it's usually because we're not exactly proud and enamored with who we are. Because maybe we always skip out on those obligations to ourselves. Maybe we don't tend to ourselves and give ourselves what we need. So if this is the way we treat ourselves, then we usually aren't so excited to put that out into the world. But if you started giving yourself all of that, your confidence would change and you would start to want to step into your authenticity. And your authenticity holds a lot of potential. Because your authenticity is full of everything that you have been gifted with. It's full of your passion. It's full of your why. It's full of your gifts. It's full of you making an impact and a difference in people's lives. It changes what you do. But until you step into that authenticity, you don't know. We go through life transacting business and working, turning the wheels, making a dollar. But when you start showing up as you and people start acknowledging the gifts that you have and the passion that you exude, that gets exciting. And it's at that point when you start to trust yourself. When you no longer want to ask somebody else what to do and how to do it. You look to yourself and say, oh, I know. I know myself so well. I don't hesitate on this decision that I make. I don't hesitate on what's right and wrong for me or how to say something or how to show up. I trust it. And you know what? If people don't like it, it's okay. Somebody knows that, huh? And that becomes a very spacious place that you get to. When all of a sudden you're showing up as you, you're not bogged down by all those other things that we were talking about, you trust yourself, life becomes a little effortless. I'm not gonna lie. You get to this place and you're like, this is kind of weird. My clients, when they get there, some of the things I hear is they say, I'm afraid that I'm too relaxed. I feel like I should be worrying. Do you think it's odd that I'm not stressed out anymore? Do you think I should start a second job? Like they're so uncomfortable with this space and capacity that they're used to filling up with drama and fear and other people's opinions and self-doubt and excuses, all of these things that I told you about that take up 50% of your capacity. So this is the destination we're looking for. This place where you know yourself, you trust yourself, you lead yourself. All of a sudden you have more time, you have more success. And it's truly where you get to a place of what I call inspiration. Who are the people that you know, local, famous, whatever, who have you looked at and said, how in the world did they do that? How did they create that? How did they make a business that big? Who? Give me some names. Elon Musk, that always comes up. Yes, Elon Musk. Do you think he lacks authenticity? No. Do you think he trusts himself? 100, he's trust, yeah. There's no other explanation for it, honestly. Do you think that he takes responsibility to create what he wants in his life? Yeah. Do you think he does the things that fill him up and bring him joy? Yeah. This is the formula, you all. Who else? Give me anybody and try to tell me that they don't embody one of those. Who's another favorite that you're impressed by? Oprah Winfrey. Any of those things. You doubt any of those with her? Not at all. Who else? Jeff Bezos, yep. All these people. And there's probably even people, someone say Angie Wisdom. Woo-hoo. That's so sweet. But you probably even know some people, local and people close to you, that you admire and you look up to, and I want you to think about it. Do you see all those characteristics in them? Because I bet you that they're there. I bet you they stopped caring about what people think because they wanted to bring their gifts to the world, because they wanted to accomplish their goals and share their passion. I bet they take responsibility for what they want because they are not going to negotiate on the dreams in their life. And this is an option for you all. But like I said, this isn't something that we can just pour into you and you can go, oh, I'm so inspired tonight. Tomorrow, I'm going to be the non-negotiable me. And everything is changing. It doesn't work like that. I wish it does. I wish it was like a Men in Black thing where I could do a little buzzer thing and there you go. But it's not. It's a process that you have to commit to. It's a relationship that you have to build with yourself so that you actually know yourself, trust yourself, guide yourself, all of these things that we talked about. Think about one of the people in your life who you trust the most. What did it take to build that relationship with them? Time. Yep, what else? Trust. They probably followed through on what they told you they would do. Probably showed up for you when they said that they would. They probably showed up for you as exactly who they are. You see where I'm going here? The things that you do for other people to be that person in someone else's life is what you need to do to be that person in your life. But why don't we?
Too busy doing it for other people.
Too busy doing it for other people. Why else? Belief. Don't believe that you can? Are you going to be mad at yourself? We usually don't disappoint ourselves, right? Like, we're okay. I should say we're okay disappointing ourselves. You don't want to disappoint that person that you're showing up for, so you keep the commitment and you follow through and you stay true to your word. But to yourself, we're willing to let ourselves down and disappoint ourselves again and again and again. Right? Even whether it's, I said I wouldn't eat this and I did. I said I'd go to the gym and I didn't. I said I'd do my calls, but I didn't. All of those things is like a little fracture in the relationship with yourself. And so how on earth could you be the one who trusts yourself and guides yourself if this is the normal relationship? And I'm not singling you guys all out. This is society in general. Because we're a given-driven society. We are taught to give to other people. Put yourself in the back of the line, eat the burnt toast. I mean, that's just the way we're taught. But the thing is that it's actually selfish to do that. We've been convinced that it's selfish if we take care of ourselves and show up for ourselves and do all these things. We've been convinced that. But let me tell you, it's selfish. Because when you do all that and you show up for somebody, you're showing up again at 50% of who you are. You're probably showing up exhausted and drained and resentful. So how is that for your clients or your loved ones? They're getting a shell of you sometimes. So I want you to reverse that thinking and start believing that you not showing up for you is selfish for the people around you. When we start rewiring our mindset like that, it opens the door for you to start creating that relationship with yourself. You having this relationship with yourself is better for you. It's better for everyone around you. So what does that look like? It's a morning mindset routine. And you guys have probably heard me talk about this before, but I didn't have the foundational principles to give you in a book to convince you to do it. Right? Before, it was like, I gotta write in this book, I gotta do this thing every single day, this is magically gonna change my life. No, thank you. Or maybe I did it for a day, I did it for 2 days. But you have to understand the real value. And that practice I put together is not just to keep you productive. It's not to make you just a great agent. It's to create a relationship with yourself. Every single aspect of that morning routine ties to one of the components that I just gave you. When you ask yourself first thing in the morning, how do I feel? Self-awareness. We're practicing the habit of self-awareness right there. And then when you ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? If you feel crappy, if you feel unmotivated, if you feel angry, and you say, what am I going to do about it? That's empowerment. That's giving yourself a choice and not being a victim to the way that you feel or think. And when you move on and you set intentions, that is taking responsibility. You're saying, this is what I'm going to be responsible for putting in my life. Whether it's getting a value in, whether it's making calls to build your business, whether it's putting time into a relationship, you are intentionally setting your agenda for what you want in your life. And when you move on to affirmations, you're working on your authenticity. You are affirming who you are, who you're coming to be, and what you're capable of. And you're reminding yourself every single day who your authentic self is and who you're growing into. It's not just to make you feel good about yourself. It's so that you learn about yourself, so you have this relationship with yourself. And when you move on to gratitude, it's not just to make everything rainbows and butterflies. It's to actually reframe the way your mind works. It's to rewire you from letting your mind control you to you controlling it. It's the way that you start showing your mind that you can choose your thoughts. I can be grateful for losing this deal because I am abundant and I know another deal is coming. When you start doing that every single day, you're telling your mind, I'm calling the shots. I can reframe things any way I want to. You are not in control of what I believe and what I think. And when you move on to prayer, and it doesn't have to be from a religious standpoint, I'm just talking about putting out there into the universe what you want. You're saying you can do it. You're saying you're deserving of it. You're putting it out there, and you are attracting energy towards it. And when you move on to visualization, you're creating a vision. You're starting to see and trust what you are planning for yourself. And when you do this every day, you create a relationship with yourself. One that you're committed to, one that you're consistent with, one that you trust. Because no matter what, when you show up and you spend 10 minutes a day creating this relationship with yourself, you start to trust yourself from that 10 minutes only. Because you said, I will show up and I will commit to creating the non-negotiable me. So when you start doing it every day, you build a little bit of trust. And just like that relationship that you mentioned earlier, that relationship that you have with somebody else that you trust so much, you now become that relationship with yourself. Because over and over again, you have showed up for yourself. You have fed yourself what you want to think. You have taken responsibility and set intentions and accomplished them. You have affirmed yourself with your authenticity. Everything that we talk about, that the people that you admire and the successful people who reach that elevated level have, you're creating that with yourself every single day. And now when you go back to trying your sales scripts or your door knocking or your Instagram, whatever it is you're doing, now you're showing up with a different version of yourself. So what didn't work before for you is probably going to work much better now. Because the operator, the person behind who's doing it, is different. It's one that believes in themselves. It's one that's committed, who's taking responsibility for what they want. And that makes you the non-negotiable you. Now, Jeremy always says, I listen like a mom and I deliver like a dad.
Free marketing.
And it's probably true. But, and I'll give you the hard truth here, you all. Your fullest potential will not come from less than your non-negotiable you. And I'm not here to tell you that you have to work from your full potential. It's a choice. There will be some people who are like, I am just fine where I'm at. I am fine with the 50% capacity I am dealing with, and I'm just A-okay. And that is your choice. But if you want to reach that level that you don't even know what it looks like yet, that's only going to come from you having the relationship with yourself, from you filling yourself up, from you controlling your mind, from you taking responsibility, to showing up authentically and trusting yourself. It only comes from that place. So you're left with a choice. I always say I hold out two hands, but I can't do it right now. In one hand, you stay the course that you're on. And I'm not judging that. That is your choice. But if you choose that, accept it. Don't be mad about it. Don't fight it. Don't complain about it. Don't make it a problem for you because you chose it. But on the other hand, if you choose that you want to be the non-negotiable you, that you want to see what you are capable of, what kind of life you can live and what kind of business you can create, then commit to it. Give yourself 30 days. Spend time with yourself, 10 minutes a day. Spend that time with yourself and see what you create with yourself. See how much you start to trust yourself and what changes for you. But choose one. Don't sit in the middle. Choose one and decide what your path looks like. And maybe you have to look in to see what your motivation is. Do you want something different than what you have right now? Do you want a different life, a different level of joy, different balance, different income, different clients? If you want something different, you have to do something different. So tonight, I leave you with that choice. The same or the non-negotiable you. You get to choose. And I have given you the book to guide you through the process. There are worksheets, QR codes. You can scan the worksheets. You all, this is what I give to people in my 12-week course. You can scan the worksheets and figure out your values. You can do a life assessment. You can go through all that process. And then you can do the morning mindset journal every single day for 30 days. There's the free worksheet right in there for you. All it takes is 30 days to start to realize what it's like. Whether you continue on that path, it's up to you. I've done it for years. And, you know, I always say this is not a symptom to treat. We are not trying to use this to dig out of a hole. We're not trying to use this to change one particular thing. We're using this to create a different lifestyle and relationship with ourselves. And I know I probably sound like a broken record because I'm trying to drop that line in your head so many times so you understand that this is a long-term relationship with yourself that will serve you. So I'm going to put you on the spot now. Who's choosing the non-negotiable you? I like it. I am here for you. I want to take some questions, but I want to encourage you. I believe in every single one of you. I know this works, and I believe that you can create the non-negotiable version of you. And I will support you through that. So let's take some Q&A.
Does this actually help you to fight the subconscious mind?
Yes, 100%. So she asked if it helps to fight the subconscious mind. Yes, our subconscious mind is wired from past experiences, from past beliefs, from our childhood, maybe even poor relationships with clients, right? If you tried to raise business for years and you never got anywhere with it, that's now a subconscious belief of yours that's affecting your ability to do something. The only way we change those subconscious beliefs that operate on autopilot for us is by consciously rewiring them. And this isn't a process of just deleting things out of your life. It has to be replaced. It's almost like if you're changing your diet or you're addicted to something. It's not about, oh, well, we're just gonna like stop thinking negative thoughts. No, you have to replace them with positive ones. It's not, well, I'm just gonna like stop tending to everybody else so much. No, you have to start tending to yourself. So it's a replacement process. And slowly as you do that, that is what literally rewires the person that you are. And eventually, you walk around and you don't even have to think about this. It is just who you are. And that is now your subconscious patterns and beliefs.
I was going to ask, and I think probably we all go through this at some point. I know the concept about every day waking up and trying to motivate yourself, but what would you do in situations when motivation is not enough? When saying, okay, I need to get up and do something, when it's more of a longer term thing, and you're kind of like in this rut, a mental rut, where you're stuck in that dark place.
Yeah.
What do you recommend then?
On a day-by-day basis, I always tell people when you go to bed, decide what you're excited to get up for tomorrow and take that to bed with you. And if you tell yourself that at night, it generally is the first thing that pops into your mind in the morning. But we go through a process of when we're falling asleep of this conscious state where we actually do rewire our brain, our subconscious. So if you feed yourself those thoughts as you're falling asleep, when you wake up, generally it's the first thing that pops into your head. So for example, I go to bed with gratitude every night. I fall asleep running through everything I'm grateful for. And when I wake up, without even thinking about it, the tape is still playing. And I'm like, oh, I'm grateful. And I'm like, oh, where did that come from? But it's just still playing. So that's one great way to do it. But the bigger question is, why aren't you excited to wake up? And that's what we have to ask ourselves. And it's usually because we don't have control of our day. We're not taking responsibility. We're not filling ourselves up. We're running on empty. So everything that I explained to you in the way that we typically operate, in the way that I operated a long time ago, that's the reason we're not motivated to wake up. Because it's like, whew, another day of this. Get on the hamster wheel, run again. We come home, we eat dinner, we go to bed, and we do it all over again. Yay, right? So that's usually what drains our motivation to wake up. So I'd ask you to give yourself fake motivation for a week, right? Try it. 1-2 days, you start doing that morning mindset, you start to go, I like waking up for me. I'm giving myself time first thing in the morning over everybody else. That's exciting to wake up to. And my morning time has become my favorite time because I get my values in there. I get my alone time. I get, my learning and development when I read. I feel accomplished because I already, did something this morning. I get peace and tranquility. I read my devotional, so I get my spirituality. So literally in that first little block of time, I've knocked out a good 5 values before I even start my day. So it's kind of like if you knew you were waking up to 5 things that you loved and you got to do them first thing in the morning, then would you be excited to wake up? Yes. That's the shift. But when I used to wake up, because I had 2 kids to get out the door and I had to hurry up and I had to shove stuff around and run around in a panic and tend to everything, that is not exciting to wake up for. And so we tend to go, I'm going to wake up at the very last minute because I don't want any more of that than I have to have. But we got to change that thinking again. We have to go back to going, okay, if I give myself more time, then I get to start my day differently. I get to fill up, and that's going to be exciting for me. I will warn you, I have turned a lot of people into 4 and 5 a.m.ers, you all. Yes. Yes. Other questions? And give them to me market-wise too, you all. I'm here for you for both pieces. And what I want you to understand is that your blocks and challenges in the real estate environment, selling, client relationships, you can't treat those like a symptom. You have to look at the core, the root of the problem, and I guarantee you, if you have call reluctance, If you're not getting your calls in, it's not time management. It's not all these things that we think it is that we're going to chase the how-tos. It's your relationship with you. It's the lack of confidence. It's the lack of authenticity. It's the lack of responsibility. So we want to tackle the challenges and problems that you have at the root so they don't show up somewhere else. What other questions? Yeah.
Is this something you have to pull your family in with you, or is this something so your wife and your kids, or is this something you think you can do on your own and not have to say, hey, we're all doing this, or what's your take on that?
My husband does not do it. He's like, babe, I tried it, I'm good. So he tends to be the non-negotiable you. He's not negotiable about it. He tends to be the non-negotiable you without that. And I'm not saying that if you don't do this, you will never get that. I'm just giving you the way to create that relationship with yourself. And it doesn't have to be an all-in. My son does it. My son who's 19 does it every single day. He loves it. My husband is like, I got it. I do it up here. I don't recommend that until you really wire it. But yeah, most of my clients, it's like their other halves don't do it, until maybe they start to see a change and they're like, why are you so calm? Why is nothing bothering you? Why are you so happy? Like they start to see all these things that their partner is embodying and they're like, well, because I'm doing this routine every single day and I'm feeding myself. And so then you start to end up bringing your partner in on it, but it doesn't have to be for everybody. Other questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of a funny question, but you realistically can spend 10 minutes? 'Cause I will confess I have your journal,
You do? Yes.
and I'm more like half an hour.
It depends. Like
I don't see how you can do that in 10 minutes. To me, it's a lot of self-reflection, so.
It is. And I have clients that definitely knock it out in 10 minutes. It just depends on how deep you want to go. I mean, my morning routine has turned into like an hour and a half now because I like to read. I like to do all these different things. But honestly, like creating that relationship with yourself, you can do that in 10 minutes. I'm not going to lie. You're probably going to want to spend more time eventually as a desire, not because, oh, this has taken me so long and I'm tired of this, because you start going, let me think about this a little bit more. And that's the beauty of the practice, is that it evolves with you. It's not just this one type of, practice that every single day it gives you the same thing. It evolves with you, and as you create space, you have the ability to think a little bit deeper. And your intentions, you're like, oh, what do I really want to do? What impact do I want to make today? So you start almost challenging yourself to bring out that higher level, that inspired level that I was talking about. You start thinking from that place. When you start doing the journal initially, you might write down in there, how do you feel? Tired. Like everyone says, is it okay if I write tired? Yeah, write that. Eventually you're going to stop writing it. I promise you. And you write down your intentions and you're like, the same things all the time, and I'm going to call this people, and then you don't do it. It's a process. Remember the relationships you created with other people? They weren't magical from day one. You stumbled, you corrected, you learned, and you're going to do the same thing with yourself with this. So yes, you can, but you will likely choose as you get deeper, and I think that is a sign of how you have evolved. You tell me, and how much time you want to spend in it.
Oh, yeah, half hour for sure. Yeah. And then another half hour walking my dog, and then, yeah.
How's that serving you?
I love it. My mornings are my time.
Yes. That's motivation to wake up, right? Yes.
I guess piggybacking on her comment about the whole 10-minute thing.
Yeah.
Is it like, because I've invested tons of money in other programs and just like crash and burn, and just going back, I think what's really speaking to me with what you're talking about is like creating that sense of trust with myself. And so are you suggesting that like, hey, it's only 10 minutes, like let's just start there to start building that trust back with yourself, and like you've got to be able to go back 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that where that's coming from? Or is it like, I guess like, it just feels like there's such a lack of trust with myself that it's like, dude, don't even bother starting because it's gonna end horribly.
Right.
And like I know that's like so negative, and yet at the same time I looking for, I guess, how does that correlate with such a
can do
small
it.
victory?
You can do it, yes.
Yeah.
It is, and that is kind of a little bit of it. Is like, look, if something is broken, how do we go about fixing it? The trust with yourself is broken, so how do we go about repairing that? Can you spend 5 minutes a day with yourself, 10 minutes a day with yourself? And you can, I mean, there's nobody who can't carve out 10 minutes a day. I have clients who are like, well, I have this business and I have kids and I have this. And I'm like, stay in the bathroom longer, hide in your closet, sit in your garage. You can find 10 minutes. And that's part of it, right? Like if we can't even say, I will give myself 10 minutes, that's where things are broken. That's where it starts right there. And so, yeah, give yourself, tell yourself a week, 10 minutes for a week, and then pat yourself on the back. And then go 2 weeks, and then go 3 weeks. And the beauty about the journal, too, is I didn't share, is that there's a daily reflection in there. And it kind of becomes your accountability coach. So it asks you a couple of questions. And it says, like, where did you find joy? And that's helping you remember where your values came in. It asks you what your win was. And when you write down, I showed up for myself for 10 minutes, we're taking that win in and we're building that trust. And if you didn't reach all your intentions and it says, did you reach your intentions and you say no, it's okay. You all, we're learning. There's several days I don't hit my intentions. But my favorite question is, what got in the way? And that's what stops us from banging our head against the wall, trying things again and again, failing, and not trusting ourselves. When I started to write my book, I would set an intention, okay, I'm gonna write for an hour today. And the day would go by and I didn't write. And I would say, what got in the way? And I would think, and I'm like, well, I don't write well in my office. I need to write at home. Okay, tomorrow I write at home. I'd set the intention and I wouldn't write. Okay, well, I was at home. What got in the way? Well, I shouldn't write between clients because my head's not in the right space. It took me so long to figure out my favorite writing time was 4 a.m. in my bathrobe at my home desk. And that's what worked for me. I would have never guessed that, but it's like every day when I found out the reason or the excuse that I came up with, I would troubleshoot, I would try something different. It's like, should I write in a coffee shop? Should I write in my car? Well, I'm just gonna keep trying, and soon you figure it out, and tell me how that builds trust with you. Right? One of my clients said the other day, she goes, I had a crappy 2 days, and then I realized what I needed, and I gave it to myself, and I am better than I was 3 days ago. And that gives me goosebumps. I'm like, to have the ability to self-assess like that, and correct and get yourself right back on the track that serves you, that gives me goosebumps. That's empowerment, and that's when you truly know you are living in your full potential and you know yourself. Nobody else can tell you what to do. You stop seeking that opinion because you're like, you don't know me like I know me, right? Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
What do you do when a lot of bad things happen to you and you have no control?
Yeah.
And it's just keep on happening, unfortunate events that just really,
Do you want my real answer?
yeah.
I thank God for them. I do. I'm grateful for them. I don't care if it's a car accident. I don't care if, my son hurt himself, whatever it is, I become grateful for it. I know, it's hard. That's rewiring our brain, though. When we find gratitude, we find opportunities and possibilities. Because a bad thing is often something good in disguise. So when you think something is bad because that client bailed and your escrow fell out, or somebody lost their job, we think it's bad, but we just haven't seen the real reason that it happened yet. And we can't see that real reason if we just take it for what it's at. But when we go, thank you. Thank you for that client falling out of escrow. I don't know what it means for me, but you must have done it for a reason. Universe, God, whoever you kind of believe in there, when you say that, it will be revealed to you. But when you just say, this is horrible, this is bad, it takes our, right? It takes our vision away from other opportunities and possibilities. So that, for sure, in my journal, gratitude around that. The other thing I love to do, Great exercise is I write a sheet and I write my controllables and uncontrollables. You have got to know what you can control and what you can't control. Because the things that you can't control, those you have to give up. You give up to the universe, you give up to your faith, you give them up to something because you will spin your wheels trying to control something that you can't control. So you look and you're like, can't control the market, can control my actions. Can't control interest rates, can control, my self-confidence. And so everything that you can't, you write it off. I know it's hard, but it works. Yes?
Can you touch more on authenticity?
Absolutely.
In the area of, I find myself not having conversations with people because I don't want to disturb my peace. But sometimes I wonder, am I being inauthentic? Because I need to have this conversation.
Tell me more about that, like a client conversation or family?
Relationships, clients, because some clients, sometimes you may not want to talk to them in that moment
Sure.
because you want to keep your peace.
Yeah.
But is it being inauthentic, or how do you?
Those are boundaries, babe.
Okay.
Boundaries. You're just you're protecting your space and creating boundaries for, what you will allow people to encroach on. Now, if you're always avoiding it, then I think you have to answer that question of like, okay, well, why do I don't ever want to have this conversation? But if you're like, this client's calling me at 6:00 at night, and I don't really want to let that into my space, that's a boundary. That's a healthy boundary. And there's nothing wrong with you saying, I can't have this conversation now, but let's talk tomorrow at 9:30. Not an authenticity thing. The authenticity is more of like, are you showing up as someone other than your true self? And so, example, if you're usually this really like quiet, mellow type of person, I feel like you're not, but if you're usually that quiet, mellow type of person who doesn't say much, but then you get into a room and you're like, hey, everybody, and you're like being all outlandish and, outgoing and making a scene, like you're probably not being authentically you, right? Or the other way around. If you tend to be pretty humble and you get around people and they're talking about all their successes and then you're like, oh, well, you know what I did? You know what I have? Like, now you're probably not being you, right? So you lose that authenticity when the people around you are starting to filter in and make you appear as somebody else. Does that make sense? Okay, good.
So I have a question in regards to that. So I think for me, number one, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Number two, I would say, well, for me personally, I've never done any sort of self-reflection or anything. I think it's been more of, do I feel good about what I'm doing or not, right? And I just kind of self-reflect on my own. Just, for example, if I do something that's wrong or somebody mentions it, I'm like, okay, well, can I change? Perfect, I'll change or I won't change. And I'll decide it, right? But I think for me, in regards to what you just said, I've always seen myself, for I would say the past decade, more of a, you could call it like a chameleon.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, but I guess maybe I've wired myself to believe that that's okay.
Uh-huh.
Because I do it in a way to market myself and be social.
Yep.
Is that inauthentic?
You have to decide whether or not you're showing up inauthentic. Like you have to have that awareness to measure that. I used to be a chameleon and look, chameleons can do a great deal of business because you show up as everyone needs you to show up. But eventually it's exhausting. You lose yourself in it. You sacrifice boundaries, like all these things, right? So it's not a matter of like, well, can you match somebody's personality? If you're really outgoing, and you've got somebody quiet and, a little bit more mellow, just because you're not going to come in like really outgoing doesn't necessarily mean you're being inauthentic, right? You're kind of like assessing the room or your clients or something, and that's okay. But when you're literally pretending to be someone else because you're trying to win, that's inauthentic, right? So if you ever go to meet a client and you're like, well, they're really rich and they're selling this really expensive house, so I'm going to pull the suit out of the closet that I haven't worn in 10 years and I'm going to borrow my friend's car and I'm going to show up there, that's inauthentic. You will almost never win like that. It is so transparent, you will not feel yourself, and the worst part is you've just told yourself you are not good. You've just said, I am not good enough. I've got to pretend to be this person. Make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So good.
Good?
Yeah, good.
Thank you all. I will be here if you want to chat, book signing, pictures. Come see me.